Hey everyone, welcome to a new video. Today's video is going to be about purple eyeshadow palettes. Purple eyeshadow palettes because not all of these are like fully purple, of course. But I just went through my eyeshadow palette collection and found 5 eyeshadow palettes that I think are known for or are sort of like the instigators or the ones that are most on trend when it comes to the purple eyeshadow trend. It seems like a lot of brands are now trying to put berries, magentas, but definitely also like true purples in their eyeshadow palettes, and I really like that development. I'm a little bit over the entire warm trend. I think that purple suits me a little bit better, to be quite honest. And that's why I thought we could do this video and talk to you about 5 different purple eyeshadow palettes that I want to compare and show you and just talk about the pros and the cons of each one. I have 5 palettes for you today, and most of these are quite expensive, I have to say. It seems to be one of those trends that gets started in like more high-end palettes and then it trickles down into the drugstore. So I only have one affordable palette for you today. The other ones are all quite pricey. Of course, we can't forget this one. This is, of course, the Norvina palette by ABH. I think this is the first purple palette that really gets everybody crazy. This is currently not yet out in the Netherlands, but I got mine from Beauty Bay, in case you were wondering how I already got my hands on this. The other palette that we're going to be talking about is the Huda Beauty Desert Dusk eyeshadow palette. This was, I think, the one that really got it started. This was the first eyeshadow palette where a couple of purples really started showing up. In the same vein, when we're talking expensive palettes, because the Huda Beauty one is quite expensive, of course, Natasha Denona gives Huda Beauty a run for her money when it comes to price point, but the Lila or Lila palette, as some people pronounce it as well, it has outer packaging that's purple, and it has that for a reason, because we have some purples in here too. Now, one that I don't hear lots of people talking about, but that definitely falls into the same vein as the other palettes, is the Violet Voss Hashtag palette. So we're gonna include that in this video. And the affordable option that I have for you is the Makeup Revolution Violet Chocolate palette. So let's just go in the order that I just showed you these in. This is the Anastasia Norvina palette. As I said, this is currently only available at Beauty Bay in Europe. It's not yet in stores here. But this is what the Norvina palette looks like. In terms of purples, you don't get a lot of options. This is definitely mostly a neutral palette, but I love neutral looks with a pop of color, so this can be a very nice one. The only true purples that you get in here are this one on the end and this one right here. So the shades Celestial and Drama are the only true purples that you get in here. You do get this like periwinkle color, but that's more of like a... It's like somewhere between a blue and a lavender, I'd say. It's not definitely a purple. And other than that, it has a couple of like warm tone browns. It has a full row of mattes and a full row of shimmers. It's got some pinks. And this is just a very sort of whimsical unicorn type of palette. And that's why I wanted to add this to my collection, because this had my name written all over it. So this is the Huda Beauty Desert Dusk palette. As you can see, it's very warm toned. And then it does have a couple of purples right here in that middle row. So Amethyst and Royal and Twilight is like a blue duochrome like shifty shade. Other than that, this palette is very warm toned, especially here at the bottom. You get a lot of warm tones, but you do get a couple of cool tones that pair well with the purples. But what I like doing, and what the challenge was for me, was to try and see if I could put the purples with the warm tones. And that's what I did in one of the looks that I created with this, and I was very pleased with how it came together. The undertones of these purples isn't super duper cool, especially Royal is very close to more of like a cranberry shade, so that's a very nice shade to pair, for instance, with this red. These two go very nicely together, and it definitely gives more of a smoky vibe. Natasha Denona then, the Lila palette, or Lila palette, I don't know how you would pronounce that. It has 2 purples here. These are more of like magenta shades, so they're more like a berry magenta. However, what I like about this palette is that you have some like cooler tones on this side and then your warm tones on this side. So it definitely has a bit of like a gradient effect almost. One of my favorite shades is this one. This is a duochrome, but it has like a red-green shift to it. It's like a brown with a red-green shift, which is really nice. The purples in here, they are nice, but I wouldn't say, if you're looking for a purple palette, then I wouldn't go for this one, because I think there are more palettes out there that have better purples than this does. For me, the shades that I really like in here is this row in the middle and this one. Those for me are the standout shades in this palette. So in terms of a purple palette, and especially given how expensive this is, I wouldn't necessarily go for this. And then the Violet Voss palette, and this is what that looks like. Again, lots of warm tones, and then you have a full row of purples at the bottom, which I really appreciate. The purples in here also, again, go very nicely with all of the cool warm tones that are in here. You don't only get a few mattes though, but you do get a really nice matte purple in here, and also this is a matte, which I really appreciate because purples can be really hard to do. So a lot of brands usually stay away from them, especially from formulating them in a matte. And I do really appreciate that this has a couple of matte purples. And then last but not least, the Violet Chocolate palette by I Heart Makeup. I think it's actually been rebranded here to I Heart Revolution. In terms of purples, I think this is the most purple palette out of the entire selection I have for you today. Because in terms of purples, you get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You get 7 purpley shades. These are a bit more of a plum. You get some brighter, close to magenta shades, a royal purple. You get a really nice periwinkle color. I do have to say that a lot of the purples that you get in this palette are shimmery. Only this is the only one that's truly a matte, and this one up here. So that has to be your cup of tea to use. But in terms of giving you as many purples as possible, this palette fits that bill best. So now that we've gone over the shade selection of these different palettes, let's talk about formula. Because in terms of formula and of course price point, there is a really, really big difference between all of these. Now, the Norvina palette is very much in line with the Modern Renaissance formula, in my opinion. So if you're looking for that kind of formula in a different color scheme, then this is definitely your best bet. I personally am not a huge fan of how powdery Anastasia shadows are. I like it, it's nice quality, but in terms of like price versus quality versus amount of product that you get, I think this is actually one of the worst deals you can make. Now, I'm coming from a European perspective here, and that's very important to know because over here, Anastasia palettes retail for close to 60 euros. I'm not kidding. An Anastasia eyeshadow palette here in the Netherlands, if you were to buy this in store, retails for 56, 57 euros, depending on where you get it. In dollars, that's over $60. So $60, $62 is what you would pay for this palette. In the US, these retail for $42. So there's a $20 upmark, like it's upmarked by $20 compared to the US. I would say for $42, I can definitely see that the quality is here. You get a good amount of product. Do I think it's worth it for $62? Yes, I do still really like the color scheme of this, and I do like the formula enough. But that's also one of the reasons why I got mine on Beauty Bay, because it's not as marked up as it would be here, because at Beauty Bay, I think it retails for $48. So it's just a little bit more expensive. So yeah, in terms of shade selection, I really like this. Neutrals, a few pops of color, I really like this. I appreciate you get the full matte and the full shimmer row. I really do like that, but I would have very much liked one of these warm tones at the end to be a matte purple. If that would have been the case, this would have been the perfect purple palette for me. It's not the case, and that's one of the biggest drawbacks for me. I do really like the formula of these. I do have to say that this definitely needs a light base to really stick to. And also these shimmers, you have to be very careful. They're very soft, so you only have to dip your brush in just a little bit to get the color payoff that you'd like. They foil very nicely. They stay put all day, and these shimmers are very creamy. So I do like this very much, but it definitely depends on where you get it, whether it's worth the price point, in my opinion. So in terms of price point, the Desert Dusk palette is one of the most expensive palettes in this selection. This is $65, but if you then compare that to the price that I would have to pay for the Norvina palette, these actually aren't that far off. You get more shades in this. I prefer the actual formula of this too. I think the mattes in here are superior. This is one of my favorite more recent eyeshadow palette releases for a reason, because I just really like the colors and how everything combines together with the formula. I think this is excellent. Natasha Denona then, in terms of formula, I have to say I was a bit disappointed. I don't really see why this has to be 129 euros. It's probably all down to the ingredients that they use in this. It's probably like very pure in pigment. But in terms of blendability and how they work with a brush and how they stay put on the eye, I really haven't seen any difference between this and, for instance, the Huda Beauty, which would be half the price of this. So I don't think it's worth it. I'm definitely not also going after another Natasha Denona palette now that I've tried this. In terms of color scheme, this is my favorite one in the Natasha Denona line. So I'm happy to have this, but it's not something that I'm completely blown away by, as some people make it seem, because it's so pricey. But I think if you are willing to splurge $129 on a palette like this, then go for it. But I think that in terms of quality and blendability and staying power, these shadows are no different from any of the other shadows I'm talking about today. Then the Violet Voss palette. I do really like this palette, mainly for the color scheme. Again, the formula I'm not too crazy about. It's nothing too offensive. I don't really have any problems putting these on or with the staying power. It's just that if I were to choose, then the Huda Beauty still, for me, has the best color payoff and the best blendability out of all of these. It only wins by a slight margin, but it's definitely not as good as this. And I do feel that the Violet Voss palettes are a little bit pricey for what they are. I mean, the packaging feels quite cheap. I believe this is one of the very first ones where they actually decided to put in a mirror. It feels and looks very much like Morphe, but this retails for about 50 euros, I believe. So I think that how much you pay for it and what you get, it doesn't really line up in my brain. Maybe it's just because the packaging is just cheap cardboard. Maybe that's why. I'm not sure. But in terms of color selection, I do really appreciate this. But then if you truly want to ask me who's the star of the show, not only in color selection, but also in formula, I think the Violet Chocolate palette is up there together with Huda Beauty. And this retails for only 10 euros. So if you're looking for a full-on purple palette with a bunch of neutrals, some of them warm tones, some of them cool tones, that will allow you to make super duper incredible, well-rounded looks that stay put, are easy to apply, blend well, don't muddy together, then you can also get the same effect with a 10 euro palette. So I would say that the Violet Chocolate palette by I Heart Makeup is definitely one to look out for. If you're looking for a color scheme, I think that this palette can do everything that the other 4 palettes can do separately, and then some. So I would say that this is my favorite one. And because I love this so much, I'm currently hosting a giveaway on my blog, because I just reached 1,000 subscribers here on my YouTube channel, and I'm also celebrating the fact that I've been blogging for 8 years. So I'm hosting a giveaway, and this palette is part of that giveaway. So I will make sure to link that blog post down below, so you can enter if you'd like. And yeah, so look out for that. There is a reason I'm absolutely crazy about this palette. It's a gorgeous, gorgeous palette. So if you'd like to see some looks with this as well, I will link that down below too, because I already posted a review of that palette up on my blog too. So there you have it. Those are 5 purple palettes that I really like, and I do think that the most affordable option here is quite possibly the best one. So yeah, I really hope you enjoyed watching this video. Please give this video a thumbs up if you liked it, and subscribe, because I make new videos every single week on Thursday and on Sunday at 5 AM Central European Time. That's when my uploads go live. So I hope to see you in my next video, and I hope you have a great day. Bye!